Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with day 21 of One Zentangle A Day. It's wonderful to see all of your smiling faces today. Can't believe we've made it through 3 weeks of this already. Today we have 3 patterns, but if you look closely, it's actually only 2 patterns because these 2 are the same pattern. And then we're going to be talking about using, instead of black ink, we are going to still use a white tile. We've been playing with colors a little bit lately, but instead of using black ink on a white tile, we're going to use sepia toned ink. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. For now, let's jump right into Rick's Paradox. To make the Rick's Paradox pattern, we start by drawing a triangle. Now, if you look right here, you see there's like columns of triangles. You can do it however you want. I'm just going to start by making one big triangle. And then notice that we start at one corner and we go to the other edge, but we don't go all the way to the corner. We're close to the corner, but not quite at the edge. So I'm going to start at the corner here. I'm going to draw another line straight across and get close to that corner, but not quite. And then we do the exact same thing again, starting from where we left off. I'm going to come down towards the next corner, but not quite touch that corner. I'm going to be in just a little bit from it. And keep going, and it's going to end up spiraling its way in. I like to rotate and always pull the line towards me. That makes it a little bit easier to draw the lines, and it also just helps you stay in the Zen. Remember, the whole point of a Zentangle is to focus, to meditate, to lose yourself in the Zen. And part of meditation is focusing on one task. In the example of a Zentangle, we're focusing on one stroke. So this whole pattern is all just one stroke of the pen, and then a rotation of the page, one stroke of the pen, and then a rotation of the page, and one stroke of the pen, and that is all there is to it for Rick's Paradox. Now I think I have made that last line so small, I don't think there's anything further I can do. Notice how it makes a spiral within a spiral. Now Rick's Paradox can actually be done in any shape. I love seeing what it looks like in different kinds of shapes. But notice that because we did this in a triangle, we end up having 3 arms of a spiral going in towards the middle. There's 1, 2, and 3. And sometimes I like to darken those spiral arms in so that you can see them a little bit better, so they stand out a little bit more. Sometimes I don't. It's totally up to you. You could also do some shading, fancy shading in there, whatever. Totally up to you. Next, betweed. Now, here we're actually going to draw this pattern twice. The first time we're going to make a plus sign and an X through it. And that makes a whole bunch of triangles, you see. And these kind of remind me of fescue, the fescue pattern, but there is a very specific way that we are putting these in. We're going to start at the bottom of a triangle. We're going to make a fescue that curves up and goes close to the corner, but not quite, just like kind of like with the paradox, the Rick's Paradox thing. But then instead of going from that point to the next corner, we're going to swap back and forth between these bottom 2 corners. So I'm going to come to the other bottom corner, and I'm going to curve up a little fescue thing from there to there. Then I'm going to switch back to where I started, come back to this corner here, make a little fescue that goes up to there, make a little fescue that goes up to there. If you're not quite sure what I'm talking about when I say fescue, you can go back and look. I think it was day 2 when we learned about the fescue pattern, but instead of making them all random wiggles, in this case with the betweed, we're purposefully making them go in a very specific direction. Once you've done that in one of your triangles, you do the same thing in all of your triangles. Well, that didn't take forever, but it did take a long time. Now, here, the only difference between Betweed 1 and Betweed 2 is that we're doing exactly the same process, but we're doing it in a different shape. So we're going to start by making sort of a pathway, and then in that pathway we're going to make some big boxy shapes. And in those big boxy shapes, we're going to do our Betweed pattern. From left to right, from right to left. And even though it's exactly the same pattern as that, just done in a different shape, it actually ends up looking very different because here the tops are wider open and here they come to points at the top. So the shape that you put it in, just like with the Rick's paradox, the shape that you put it in to start with is actually going to have a huge impact on the end result. So with that all said and done, we're going to take a look at using sepia ink. Sepia is a brownish color, and so I have here two of my fine liner pens that are in the sepia color. And I also have, for shading, I have a couple of different Copic markers. These are, the lightest one is E33 Sand, the middle one is E37 Sepia, and the darkest one is E29 Burnt Umber. Those three, in conjunction with these pens, are going to give me quite a large range of values to make. So I am going to use the pencil for my string and border, but after that I am not going to do any shading. I'm going to do some lighter middle values with these instead of with shading. Well, that was a bunch of fun, doing something a little bit different from usual by using these sepia tones. Definitely has a very different vibe to it. I think the way these sepia tones look would work really well for other organic patterns, not quite as much for geometric patterns. Anyway, it was a bunch of fun. Mostly, pretty much all of this whole tile uses different variations of these patterns right here with a little bit of fescue because it's basically the same as Betweed, or Betweed is really built out of fescue. So I did one little fescue right there in the middle to finish it off. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this is 3 weeks done of the One Zentangle A Day book. And if I'm not mistaken, there are 3 more weeks to go. I plan to keep going all the way to the end. If you are interested in sticking around for all that, hit the subscribe button down below, like the video, share it with your friends, and I will see you tomorrow for day 22.